Chapter 7, I thrive in the shadows, untrusting of light. 6 thought that it would be easy. She thought that she could sneak to the desk and get what she needed while Mono distracted the robot. It seemed docile enough, like the bear robot, if a lot more annoying. And the plan was working. She made it behind the desk and pulled up the watch.
I'm behind the desk,
she whispered.
What do I do?
Do not fret, 6. It is very simple. Do you see an item on it that looks like me?
She looked and quickly spotted a small head that resembled Freddy's, though it was definitely not him. Its face was too thin, and it was much smaller as well.
Uh-huh.
Perfect. Just press its nose and it will open up. Inside is a security badge. It will allow you to open the doors to the daycare. I am currently waiting just outside.
Simple enough, right? Well. Sonny noticed her behind the desk and started making his way over to her while Mono tried and failed to stop or distract him.
I got a new friend! This area is off limits! You're gonna get us in trouble! Don't you want a puppet show? I have glitter glue! You like glitter glue? Googly eyes?
6 wasn't super worried, but she still rushed to complete her task before it could come over to stop her. She pressed the black nose and there was a weird honking noise as it opened its mouth to reveal what was probably the security badge that Freddy was talking about. She quickly grabbed it, and just as Mono was rushing around the desk towards her, the lights went out. She jumped, not having expected a blackout in this place. Only a second or two later, she saw and felt a small figure that she recognized as Mono rushed to her side and gently grabbed her arm. Not to pull on, but instead more like a gesture of reassurance or worry. Then the something freaked out.
No! Why would you do that?
Sonny yelled as he hopped up on the desk and swung its arms around.
Lights on! Lights on! I warned you! I warned you!
Sonny clutched his head and screamed in pain, like he was fighting something off from within. Then he leaned back and fell off the desk and onto the floor behind it. 6 turned to exchange a worried and fearful expression with Mono, who was now holding her hand tightly. They heard the robotic noise of joints clicking, and looked back to see spindly hands grabbing the desk, then 2 red glowing eyes rose up from behind it.
Naughty girl. Naughty girl. It's past your bedtime. You must be punished.
It looked different now, with blue and gold starred clothes, and its face now resembled that of a crescent moon rather than a sun. It hopped up onto the desk with a joyful hop to its step. Then it flew away into the dark room. Needless to say, the kids were now both terrified, a shiver running down their spine. They both ducked and hid under the desk, not knowing what else to do yet.
6. I do not know what you did, but the lights are out in the daycare.
Yeah, we've noticed.
6 whispered into the watch harshly.
All I did was take the badge.
Freddy, what do we do?
You will need to find the 5 emergency backup generators and turn them on. They are located inside the play structures.
6 and Mono looked at each other in concern, their faces only being lit up by the light of the watch. 6 quickly scanned the area behind the desk, and her eyes quickly landed on the only other thing illuminating the room, a box attached to the wall that resembled Freddy's head. Again. More importantly, there was something in its mouth, and the girl quickly realized what it was.
Mono, look!
She whispered as she pointed to it.
There's a flashlight.
Mono's eyes widened in recognition, and he quickly got up to grab it before rushing back under the desk.
There's only one,
he said, handing it to her.
You take it. We need to split up and each turn on the generators. I'll take 2, you take 2, and then we'll both look for the last one. I'll use the watch as a light.
6 hesitantly grabbed it, and felt its weight. It was definitely a lot heavier than she thought a flashlight would be. But she was also worried about.
Mono, that's not enough light for you.
It'll have to do. Besides, he's probably going to go after you more, since he's mad at you for breaking the rules. That flashlight is really heavy, so you can use it as a weapon if he gets too close.
6 was still unsure. She had never held a weapon before. The closest thing she had used was a stick she used to push a boulder onto that spoiled rich girl in the green dress. She had abandoned it just as soon as he used it.
Bad children must be found.
And they heard the robot say from somewhere in the room.
Bad children must be punished.
6 looked down at the flashlight one last time. There wasn't much of a choice right now. They needed to split up if they wanted to turn the lights back on faster. So, she eventually nodded.
Okay, just be careful.
You too.
And us, the two gave each other a nod and sprinted out from behind the desk. If this were in any other circumstance, mainly a safe one, Mono found that he would have actually enjoyed running and climbing all around the play structures here. They reminded him of the rabbit holes and secret passageways into hideouts that he always enjoyed exploring. For some reason. He didn't actually know why. So if he could do this without having to worry about being attacked and killed by the thing taunting them right now, then he would be having fun exploring the structures. At least that robot thing couldn't follow them into the play structures. That was good. It was dark though, even with the little light he had from the watch screen. He could make out shapes, and he could see colors if they were close enough, but that was about it. He didn't even know what these generators looked like. He just had to run around and try to find them. That's when he saw and felt a small tube, or a big wire of some kind, snaking its way up and around the structure. Curious, Mono followed it for a moment, then eventually saw a small light close by. Mono crawled closer, then finally saw a machine of some kind, a lever on its side.
This must be the generator.
He flipped up the lever and saw a small green light light up as he did, and the machine began to hum.
1.
He shouted out to 6. He hoped that they could keep track of the generators this way, seeing the others' progress.
Howdy, hide. Hide away. It's past your bedtime.
He heard the robot say from somewhere around them. Mono psed and immediately rushed down a new path in the structure. Looking outside, he could see the light from 6's flashlight in the second structure as she crawled around. Soon enough, he heard her call out,
2.
Mono gave a small nod to himself as he crawled around, searching for the next generator. Geez, he could still barely see anything. He mostly just had to feel his way around as he climbed through, up, down, and over the place.
Good night.
Mono ducked back into the play structure as he heard the thing come closer to him.
3.
He heard 6 call out again. Shoot, he really needed to pick up the pace. Mono searched around for another minute, but eventually found another small light. He crawled up to it and flicked the switch.
4.
Alright. Now to help 6 search for the last one. Mono had been through the whole structure, and figured that it wasn't in there, so he began to try to make his way out of it and onto the floor. He crouched as he sneaked around the structures, trying to keep his movements as quiet as possible. He aimed his watch ahead, but he still couldn't see much. That is, until he caught a glimpse of a small red light. His eyes brightened.
There you are.
He started crawling closer to it. A yelp came from down the room, followed by the sound of a scuffle. Mono jerked his head in the direction of the noise, and froze at what he saw. The flashlight that 6 had used had been dropped, and was now lying on the floor, pointing towards 6. She was pinned on the floor with the robot thing over her and grasping at her neck, while she clawed and kicked and punched at it desperately.
I'm putting you in time out.
Mono felt something snap in him. Without any regard for his own life, he sprinted towards them, snagging the flashlight on the floor as he did, and the boy gritted his teeth as he swung his arm back. The moon robot turned its head just in time to see Mono slamming the heavy flashlight onto its face with a shout. The robot recoiled with a shriek, clutching its face, and Mono didn't waste time attacking it again. He swung the flashlight like a bat to get it off of 6, then kept swinging at it again and again.
6.
Mono shouted in between his attacks.
The generator. There.
Making sure that the robot was still distracted from his previous hits, he quickly aimed the flashlight back over where he had seen the last generator. Mono didn't hear much of a confirmation, but he did hear feet running behind and away from him. The moon robot growled at him, turning its red eyes towards him as it stood.
Naughty boy. Not it's been ugly.
Mono glared at it, reading himself to swing the flashlight at it again. The thing went to lunge at him, but just as it started to, the lights flickered back on. The moon thing screamed, writhing as it went to transform back into the sun thing, if Mono had to guess. The boy instantly turned and ran back towards 6, who was already crawling out of the play structure, and the two immediately ran back over to the doors to open. However, the two were stopped when something yanked on the back of their collars, making them yelp.
Rule breakers, rule breakers!
The Sun Robot said, lifting them off the ground and kicking the door open.
You are banned from the daycare!
He quite literally threw them outside onto the floor, and the two turned back towards him to see him getting ready to close the door.
Security alert! Security alert! Woo, 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 woo!
And he slammed the door shut. Mono and Six flinched back when they realized that the thing had just called for the other robots. Mono turned to scan the area for the robots, and jumped when he saw one only a few feet away, but quickly relaxed again when he realized that it was Freddy. The robot bear seemed panicked, and opened his chest for them.
Mono, 6, jump in, we need to get out of here now, they will be here any second.
Didn't need to tell them twice. The kids were quick as they helped each other inside, taking only a few seconds before Freddy closed his chest up again to hide them. Not a moment later, they heard stomping around them. Mono pulled up his watch again to see outside, taking note that all three robots, the bird, the lizard, and the wolf, were now entering the area they were in. Freddy was already walking away from them, the other robots not paying him any mind as they searched fruitlessly for the kids.
Let's go upstairs, and do not worry.
Freddy's voice said, through the watch instead of actually from him.
They cannot find you all, you are hidden in my chest cavity.
Mono gave a small sigh of relief at the confirmation. Mono and Six looked at the screen of the watch as Freddy went upstairs and made his way out of the daycare.
We are almost out of time. We need to get to a recharge station immediately. Every hour the power is diverted to the recharge stations. When that happens the lights go out, and when that happens the daycare attendant is free to roam the building. It will find you.
Mono glanced over his shoulder to exchange looks with Six.
Isn't there anywhere we can go to hide?
He asked, keeping his voice low.
There is. The recharge stations are built in a way that the daycare attendant will be unable to enter. As long as you are in one of the stations, you will be safe. I am heading to one right now.
Freddy continued out of the daycare and back down the starlit hall they had gone down before, heading straight for the weird capsule things that Freddy had stood in before. Oh. So those were recharge stations. Good to know. Freddy quickly entered and shut the door behind them, but the small window allowed them to see outside into the hallway. Thankfully, the moon robot didn't seem to have followed them out of the daycare, so they were safe for now. That is, until a familiar hum of static filled Mono's ears. Suddenly the boy was hit with a shockwave of pain in his head, feeling like it was being compressed in on itself. His body felt sick as static seemed to dance over his skin. This horrible feeling felt exactly like what being around the televisions had done to him. Only this time, he wasn't being drawn to a TV. He was just in agonizing pain. Mono pinched his eyes shut, winced, gasped and clutched his compressing and fuzzy head, hearing almost nothing over the blaring static in his ears. He wanted to throw up again. And then just as soon as it had arrived, it was gone, melting away completely after a few seconds. Mono gasped again, opening his eyes as he panted to catch his breath.
Mono.
The boy was suddenly snapped out of his shock as he felt Six tugging hard on his jacket shoulder. He turned to see her with panic in her green eyes. Understandably so.
Mono, are you alright?
Freddy asked, now speaking out loud.
Six and I both sense your distress.
Mono furrowed his brows in confusion at himself, and rubbed his head again.
I don't know. I feel fine now.
Was your head hurting?
He nodded.
Yeah. It felt like what happened when the TVS messed with my head.
Six went stiff at that.
But there's no TVs here.
The TVs? Televisions have messed with your head, Mono. In what way?
Mono didn't really want to talk about it. It was too personal. Too difficult to speak about. But Freddy probably needed to know if he was going to help them.
They make my head hurt, and make my body sick, and I can only hear the static. It doesn't stop until I touch the screen. But, like Six said, there aren't any TVs here.
Freddy hummed in thought.
Maybe it had something to do with that rabbit lady.
Mono blinked, and turned to look back at her again.
Rabbit lady.
Rabbit lady?
Six furrowed her brows slightly in confusion.
Yeah. I could see on your watch. There was a dancing rabbit lady that went right in front of us.
She glanced up, as if to face Freddy.
I understand Mono not seeing it since he wasn't looking at the screen, but I thought you would be able to. We were looking through your eyes. Did you seriously not see her?
No, I did not.
Freddy answered, uneasy.
There is no rabbit at the Mega Pizza Plex. Not anymore.
Now Mono furrowed his brows in confusion.
There used to be a rabbit here.
Yes, there was, but he's gone now.
The bear sounded so depressed. Mono didn't really want to ask more about it if it would upset Freddy that much. Besides, the rabbit he was talking about was apparently male, so he probably had nothing to do with this rabbit lady. Mono sighed.
This is crazy. The whole place is trying to get us.
I am not.
Freddy told them.
Why?
I do not know. I want to help you. Maybe they want to help you too.
I doubt it.
Mono nodded in agreement.
For some reason, you're different. We've.
The boy suddenly looked down at his lap shyly and fidgeted. He felt Six shifting behind him to lean closer in concern.
Mono?
The boy sighed softly. He might as well say it.
We've never had an adult want to help us before. It feels weird.
There was a small pause. The kids felt Freddy shift his weight uneasily.
Have you two always been on your own?
He asked them sadly.
I hate to ask, but can you please tell me what adults have done to you in the past?
Mono pursed his lips and gripped in the sleeves of his coat. He didn't want to answer. Obviously Freddy didn't know about the adults that they were familiar with. Would he even be able to understand? Freddy was trying to piece together what had happened to Mono and Six before today and before they had met. At this point, the animatronic bear was beginning to think that the kids had just escaped from somewhere horrible, considering they both didn't know many things that any 9 or 10-year-old should know. Plus the fact that they were very clearly malnourished to the point where they looked like they were 5 years old. It didn't spell well for what they had been through. Mono was hesitating to answer Freddy's question, but Six, meanwhile, had little trouble answering.
Adults always chase us. They want to catch us. Sometimes it's to use us for something, but mostly they just want to kill us.
All adults?
Uh-huh. But the adults here are smaller, and not as weird as them. We should be okay. We've dealt with the monster adults before, and Mono and I always make it out.
Freddy furrowed his brows in both confusion and concern.
Monster adults?
The ones taller than you. The ones that do creepy things.
The robot was having a hard time understanding what she was trying to say. But, considering their past abuse.
What kind of creepy things? Six, what did they do to you?
He really hoped that it wasn't what he thought she was implying.
They skin animals.
And chase us with guns.
And make traps.
And climb on the ceiling.
Wait.
Freddy cut them off, now even more confused.
It sounds like you are not talking about adults, but rather, actually monsters.
That's what adults are, right?
No, that's...
Freddy stuttered. What were these children talking about? How could they see such creatures? If such creatures existed, how could the public not know about them? If they really were taller than Freddy himself, and so monstrous as they described, then...
Hey, can we keep moving?
Mono asked, sounding uncomfortable.
I don't want something to find us in here. If what Six said is true, then that rabbit lady could come back here and get us.
Or that night guard woman.
Freddy sighed. It seemed that they were wanting to drop the subject. He supposed that it made sense. Children tended not to like talking about their trauma, and he wasn't about to force them, even if he still had a million questions to ask.
Very well. We shall continue this discussion another time.
The bear could practically sense the two of them cringing.